Okay, I'm going to start off by saying or explaining a similarity between Christianity and Hinduism. And in Hinduism, I think they have multiple different theories on like God and the divine divinity or whatever. But I think one of the things that they believe is that God is basically present within everyone, and that they believe in like a potentially like a single God. And so that's the similarity, is that both the Christian God and the Hindu God are both basically a God that is basically trapped in, well, not trapped, but like is present within all things. Namaste, like literally means I pray to the divine in you, as in divine exists within yourself. So now I'm going to transition into my theories, which are ultimately inspired by, understanding Christianity first. And I also want to point out some things about God that you might be resistant to at first, but it's just, and I'm sorry, I'm just talking about theoretically, right? I'm not trying to say this is fact. This is not what I know. I'm agnostic. I believe that any and all, and also no religions are possible. I believe potentially that there could be infinite possible gods, because applying Schrodinger's cat to like the afterlife question, until I actually die and go through the afterlife in this world that I live in, as long as I'm in this world, don't ask questions in life that you can only find the answer to in death. So what I believe is that so I can't know for certainty what actually is the possibility, whether there's a God or not. I can only assume that God's a possibility. Something that I like to say is that in the knowing you are limited, but in the unknown anything is possible. And to simplify like Schrodinger's cat and how it applies to like the afterlife question, is that we're all basically cats trapped inside the box of like the earth and the universe in this reality. We're all cats trapped inside the box, and we won't know what exists outside the box until we leave the box of this world, after we've lived life to the full, being benevolent and good and proving ourselves worthy to get into paradise or a heaven or whatever, or what I like to call it in my theory is a perfect reality. Like, this reality is imperfect. Heaven or the afterlife is perfect. And so the biggest thing I want to talk about is that I think both Christianity and Hinduism, I believe that obviously there are possibilities, as I've explained, but I believe that in a sense that if there was one singular God and only one God ends up being true, technically all monotheist religions, I think, technically believe in the same religion, because they all believe in the same singular God. It's just that they have different ways of looking at that God. And one of the things I was touch on here is that I've heard this before, obviously, because this is developed in my theories like 8 years ago or whatever. But like I have to double check just in case. And I looked up, in Christianity, is God omnipresent? As in, is God all present? As in, is God everywhere at any moment? And what I think that actually basically means, and what it actually says here as well, is that God is a spirit. Now, the thing is, This is going to sound a little bit off, but it's actually not. It's actually divine. I actually theorize that God is neither him or her, because I theorize that God's true form is an energy called divine energy, which is a force of pure life and creation. Because think about it, if God is going to be omnipresent, like present within all things and everything, then God would have to be like an energy, and energies don't have a physical body, right? And because they don't have a physical body, not only are it's not that they're not non-gender. God's true form being an energy, or a divine creator, as I call it, which is a divine energy. Stumbled there, right? So if God is an energy, yeah. So I was about to say that genitals, sex, and gender, they're kind of like human constructs. But God's true form is an energy, and if God is an energy without genitals, for instance, then God is neither him nor her. God is an energy. So God is not a he. God is technically, well, I wouldn't say it's an it. I would say God is an energy. I would say that theoretically, that's the only way God can make sense if God is omnipresent. If God is literally an energy, and energies obviously would have no sexual organs because they're an energy. And this is also present within how Christians look at angels. Angels were said to not have genitals, and I've looked that up online before to double check. And angels didn't have genitals neither. So if they were, well, like if they should, okay, if they were kind of, I know they say this about people, but like if angels were made in God's image, they would be. That's why they'd have no genitals. And okay, the reason why they have no genitals, by the way, is because angels are immortal beings. They live in a perfect reality where people are immortal, where the beings present are immortal. Because they never die, they don't need to give birth to bring new life in the world, because no life is lost. We have the ability to give birth and procreate in this reality because we die. Because when God created humanity, God made us so that we could die. And the reason why God did that as well is so we can have emotions, so that emotions can create meaning in the world. But that's a different thing that I'm going to talk about in a different end. But yeah, God is an energy, and God has no sexuality, and that's true within the angels as well. The angels had no genitals because they were immortal. No one in heaven died. No one in heaven had the ability to give birth, because when it comes to how Christianity looks at heaven, heaven is where you go to when you die. So therefore, you have the ability to have birth in this universe, but in heaven, you'd have the inability to have birth or to give birth. So sex, I think theoretically, sex would become irrelevant and cease to exist. Like, having intercourse would cease to exist in paradise, because you'd become immortal. Nobody dies in that reality. And then, but anyway, the main point I was trying to say is that not only is God non-sex, non-biology, like non-sex, but also the angels are non-sex as well, and non-sex and non-gender. I know you don't like that thing, but it's so if God is literally an energy, if God is a spirit, spirit implies an energy, then God has no sex, no genitals. Like God's an energy, for like a form of pure life and a creation. And the closest thing that we can comprehend what God looks like would be like a light, like a yellow, bright, white, well, yellow or white light. But anyway, and that was leading me to go into another thing, which is about debunking something, but that's for a different video. And I basically gone to what I wanted to go to today is the similarity with Christianity and Hinduism, that you believe in a God that is omnipresent, that is present to all things, that is present within everything. Oh, that's what I could say as well. The things in which God creates are an extension of God's own self, as in a part of God gets put into the things in which God creates. So if the universe and humanity was created by God, we consist of God, and technically we are one with God. And that leads me into another thing where so technically we are technically a god, but we have a power given, a power diminished, where we can create life, but it's limited to like procreation and having birth, and we can create existences like in our imaginations, but we can't make our imaginations and our realities we create in our minds, we can't will them into existence as well.